The WINONA Sports Network welcomes you to Thunder Talk. Thanks to Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Get all the dirt from Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Direct from Dan Bailey.
Hey race fans, welcome to another edition of Thunder Talk on the WINONA Sports Network, 99.3 FM, and streaming live on WINONARadio.com. This is episode number 335 as we prepare for the Carl Fenske Memorial at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, presented by Whitewater Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. If you are looking for some great dirt track action, Mississippi Thunder Speedway should be your Friday night destination. Not only is this week the Carl Fenske Memorial Night, but also a USMTS racing action this weekend has been rained out. There will be a USMTS event at Mississippi Thunder Speedway next week. And then, of course, the following week is that big $100,001 to win modified special. So I am guessing, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here, I am guessing that if you come to Mississippi Thunder Speedway for the Carl Fenske Memorial event presented by Whitewater Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, not only are you going to see some of our great local racers, but I think you're going to see some visiting modified racers trying to get the big third mile figured out before the big deal coming up at the end of May. Hey, if you're listening to the radio broadcast, remember you're hearing an edited edition of the discussion had for this week's episode of Thunder Talk. If you want to hear the entire discussion, point your favorite internet browser to YouTube and do a simple search for Thunder Talk with Dan Bailey. You can hear this week's program and past week's programs in their entirety. Joining me on this week's program, a youngster coming off a hot night at Mississippi Thunder Speedway last Friday night, driver of a hobby stock, Gavin Bartel. Gavin, first of all, welcome to episode number 335 of Thunder Talk.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
I said you had a hot night last Friday night. It was a bit of a hectic night as well. First things first, you missed your heat race and had to start dead last in the feature lineup, worked your way all the way up to a second place finish. I want to talk about that run through the field, but first, let's tell the listeners why you missed your heat race. Where was Gavin Bartel early on Friday night last week?
Yeah, I had a baseball game in Byron, Minnesota. I pitched for our high school team, and we knew this was going to be the one night that it wasn't going to work for me to be able to be there right away. But we had my mom waiting there in the car right after the baseball game. I got in her car, and then I had my race suit and my race shoes in the car, and so I had my dad bring the race car to the track and get it all ready for me to hop in it, and we got to the track as quick as we could so I could get in and start in the tail.
So that is dedication for a dual sport performer like yourself. Before we talk about the racing action, I got to ask you, how'd the baseball game go?
It didn't really go too great. I was pitching okay. I'm coming off a hand injury. I broke my hand this winter wrestling, and so that was the first game that I got to pitch my full max all the way out to 105 pitches. I had 10 strikeouts, though, so it was all right.
All right, good job. 10 Ks for Mr. Bartel. Now, you are a junior in high school right now. Do you take your baseball activities seriously? Do you do it a little bit more for fun? Is this something that you're hoping to extend beyond high school?
Yeah, it was definitely before I definitely wanted to go in and play college baseball, and it's still on the table, just not as much anymore. It's more for fun, but I really like it a lot. So if the opportunity comes around to play baseball, I would probably take it. But now I'm looking more towards just the trades.
All right. You also mentioned wrestling. Is it baseball and wrestling sports-wise that you focus on at school, or do you compete in other sports as well?
No, just baseball and wrestling.
Of the two, which do you enjoy more, baseball and wrestling?
I would have told you wrestling about 4 years ago, but I've really come around to like baseball a lot, so I'd have to say baseball.
All right, so now let's focus on what we're here to talk about, and that's motorsports at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. After that long drive from the baseball game last Friday night, you arrive at Mississippi Thunder Speedway late. You'd missed your heat race. How did that play with your mindset and your emotions? Did you get to the track with enough time left to kind of calm yourself, or did you get there just in time to belt into the car? What was that like?
I was definitely worried not being on the new track with all the changes that they made to the facility and everything. I was trying to watch the heat races the best I could on my way there in the car on Racing Dirt, and then I got there and I was talking to Taylor Osrood and Sam Fitterer, seeing what I could know before hitting the track, but I definitely felt like I had a disadvantage going into there, not being on the track at all before that.
And then you come from the tail end of the field, charging through the pack for a second place finish. One heck of a run. I mean, it was fun to watch you work your way through the field. What was your mindset like behind the wheel?
Yeah, we've been having some troubles with the car. It's not been working exactly how we wanted to. We've run Mason City a couple times this year before, just trying to work out all the things with the car, and then I think we finally got it figured out. And when I was out there, I was going, and then we had a caution one time, and I looked up, and there was only like 4 or 5 cars ahead of me. I was like, oh wow, I can actually do pretty good here. And then it just kept going, and I kept getting more cars at a time.
Do you feel like that first feature win at Mississippi Thunder Speedway was within reach? Do you think you could have caught the leader, battled for that top spot, and maybe worked your way into victory lane?
I think there was about one time in each corner that I was close to having Chris, but I don't know. He's real tough. We race him all over. I'm usually following him behind him. I think I got second to him 6 times last year. I think it would have taken a lot of things would have had to line up for me to get by him.
Yeah, multi-time Mississippi Thunder Speedway track champion Chris Hovden ended up picking up the feature win. Not a bad guy to finish second to, though, right? I mean, he's a strong dude to follow.
Yeah, that's a lot of the guys that we talked to, because it was getting hard last year. Kept getting second place to him everywhere I went. Was following him around all over. Everyone was just kind of like, really getting second to him is like, that's really good for us, especially because he was leading national points almost all of last year. So it was all right. It wasn't too terrible to get second to him.
But you're not only a second-place champion. Last year you had some success coming away with a couple of feature wins at 2 different tracks. One feature win, your career first, at Deer Creek Speedway, and then another feature win later on in the year, I believe it was in September, right, over at Chateau. So you've tasted victory. Were those feature wins defining moments in the season?
Yeah, getting my first win at Deer Creek definitely helped my confidence-wise a lot, especially with all the guys at Deer Creek is all the top guys that we run with every week, and I beat them pretty handedly. My car was working real good there. I got real lucky, and then definitely made me confident showing up at the track and like knowing I was one of them cars that the other guys look at like, oh yeah, he could win any night. So definitely made me feel better going out there and racing against these guys that usually I would look at and be like, oh, there's no way I can beat them.
So this year's car for the 2024 season, is this the same car that you raced last year? And if so, have you made some changes to it, or are you piloting a new car this year? What's your setup for the 2024 season?
Yeah, this is the same car I've had for the last 2 years. This is a Adams chassis. Last year, towards the end of the year, I hit the wall pretty hard and bent just about every suspension piece you can even get on the car. So we have all new suspension and everything on the car. The only thing from last year's car is the drivetrain even. So we got a lot of new suspension parts, and we just went searching for any little tiny thing that can help us be faster in this one.
After you bend up a car like that and you have to rebuild it from the ground up, sometimes things work the way you expected. Sometimes they don't work the way you expected, and you have to figure things out again. It sounded like maybe at the start of this year, some of the other events, you felt like maybe you didn't quite have the handling that you wanted to, but last Friday night, obviously, the car was running great, performing the way you wanted it to. So that's got to make you feel better moving a little bit deeper into this year.
Yeah, for sure. We've just mostly trying to find just little tiny things that I can either feel in the car that I would like, whether I'm tight going in just a little bit, just little tiny things to make me faster. We're trying to crack down on them and figure that out.
You have one of those hobby stocks that looks great, presents very well, and it's got a nice group of sponsors on there as well. I want to give you an opportunity to pass along some thanks to those local and area businesses who are helping you out with your 2024 racing campaign.
Yeah, I got a pretty big list here. I got A14 Suspension Tech, Adams Race Chassis, Osred Tile and Stone, Brower Roofing, Cordis Construction, Dan Gunderson Painting, Dad's Auto and Repair, DeCook Landscaping, DK Design, Extreme Race Car Tire Prep, Farmer's Topsoil, Farrell Equipment, Matsky Custom Cabinets, McGee Plumbing, Quality Handyman Services, Remax Realty, Rochester Electric, Speed Shop, Welp Construction, and then my grandpa and grandma also chip in a little bit of money for just like a racing suit or helmet or things like that I need throughout the season.
It makes a season a little bit easier to enjoy when you have a great group of supporters like that, including family members like grandpa and grandma. You know, looking at your 2023 stats, you had 20 feature starts, 14 of which were top 10 finishes. I mean, that's a 3/4 of the season. You were able to race your way into the top 10, and 11 top 5s, including those 2 feature wins we mentioned. So that means more than half of your features produced top 5 feature finishes. Those are some great stats from last year. For this year, 2024, what sort of results would make you decide at the end of the year, all right, that was a successful season for me?
Yeah, I think one of our main goals that me and my dad have always talked about is winning at MTS. We run there every weekend, and so that's one track that we for sure want to win at. And then another goal for me is just after racing down in Mason City, they run real hard down there, and I think that would be a tough one to win at. So I'd like to win there. Maybe I would want to win at every track that I race at least once, and then I don't know, maybe a track championship at MTS would be fun. I think that's what we're going to go for this year. It's going to be real hard with Chris being there every weekend, but we'll see what we can do.
So it looks like we're probably going to be able to see you racing every Friday night at MTS if you are thinking about, potentially battling for a championship. What is your schedule, or what are your plans for the 2024 season?
Yeah, we'll be at MTS every night. Every Friday we'll be there, and then Saturdays we'll run to Deer Creek whenever it's convenient for us. We got a lake house in Lake City, Minnesota, so we go there after MTS and kind of spend the weekend there with family and stuff. It kind of helps the family and race balance figure itself out there. And then the weeks that MTS has off, we'll head down to Chateau because that's pretty close to our house here.
And you're not the only individual in your family who has turned the wheel of a race car, right?
Yeah, my dad raced. He raced for a long time from when he graduated until I think 2015 was his final year, and then he sold his car. I was getting more into him. I was running go-karts, and then I got a slingshot, and so he sold his car to focus more on me and getting me up into some bigger cars and stuff.
Now that you have enjoyed, a couple of feature wins with this hobby stock, I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse, but have you started thinking about maybe long-range plans for your racing career? Are you maybe thinking about other divisions that you might want to try out?
Yeah, for sure. One of our main things that I always wanted to get into was a late model. With the hobby stocks and running Adams chassis, and Blake Adams does my shocks, and I've gotten real close with Blake and Chris Adams, and so with them, I think our next thing will be a stock car for sure, being close with them and being able to transfer what we know pretty much from the hobby stock over into a stock car. Hopefully that'll not be too big of a change for us to be able to set them up and do okay in that.
Awesome. Well, that would be interesting to see in your future. But first, we got to focus on 2024. You had a great run last Friday night. Congratulations on that charge through the field, and best of luck through the entire 2024 season.
Yeah, thank you.
Gavin Bartel, driver of the Hobby Stock, the number 18 Hobby Stock at Mississippi Thunder Speedway, coming off, as I've mentioned a couple times, a strong charge and a great finish in last Friday night's Hobby Stock feature. Hoping to improve it by one position, maybe during this week's Carl Fensky Memorial, presented by Whitewater Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. A little extra money on the line for all of the divisions competing, including those hobby stocks. So head on out to Mississippi Thunder Speedway and cheer Gavin on. You might be able to celebrate his career first feature win at Mississippi Thunder Speedway that he could add to his feature wins from Deer Creek and Chateau from the 2023 2023 season. Remember, all the information about the Carl Fenske Memorial is online. You can either visit the Mississippi Thunder Speedway website, MississippiThunder.com, or check out all their social media efforts on all the regular platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Again, thank you very much, Gavin Bartel, for joining us on this week's edition of Thunder Talk.
Thank you.
Tune in next week for all the dirt from Mississippi Thunder Speedway with Thunder Talk on the WINONA Sports Network. Thanks to Arcadia Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram.